Hey everyone, it's Matt, one of the co-hosts of Entertainment Buddha's Star Wars Time podcast show. Just wanted to let you know, if you're over here, that's probably because you are making the transition to move with us to our new Star Wars Time YouTube channel. So we're eventually going to be hosting all the Star Wars content we used to put on Entertainment Buddha's YouTube channel on this Star Wars Time channel. So hopefully you're making your way over with us. Like I've said in other videos we're uploading to this new Star Wars Time YouTube, we should have the final cutover of YouTube Star Wars content for Entertainment Buddha making its way to Star Wars Time YouTube. So thanks for coming with us. We appreciate you. We'll also be separating the podcast itself into its own iTunes podcast, so make sure to stay alert for the cutover. May the Force be with you, always. Everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Star Wars Time. It's Matt, it's Nick, it's BB-8, and a fallen Rey. And you guys are asking, what the fuck is he talking about? Well, if you had a camera, you would know what I'm talking about, but you don't, so why the fuck am I talking about it? But that's just the type of shit you get on Star Wars Time, so welcome back. We've actually have an episode that's going to touch on some pretty important news, my friends. I mean, it's been a few weeks since we've been able to dig into Star Wars universe news nuggets, but we have more than a few tonight to talk about, as well as a discussion on Star Wars Resistance, which is getting better and better by the week. And really at the end, we have a special announcement to make. That's right. I'm setting up the tease right now. Please stick with us. I know sometimes we go on for damn near 2 hours. Hopefully, if you've made it that long, you've at least been entertained. That's our purpose. We really don't just plan to sit here and talk until we're blue in the face. But we do have a pretty big announcement to make at the end of this episode. So I at least hope you stick around. If you don't stick around, guess what? You can see the little music player or the video player, depending on how you're listening to this episode. Just drag it towards the end and listen, because I do want you to hear our announcement, if anything else. You can tune out of our discussion, although I think that's sacrilegious. It's Sith-like, but I get it. Time is precious. If anything, scrub to the end just to catch our big announcement. All right, Nick. So, like I said, we have more than a few things to talk about this week. We didn't have to cook up our own subject. We didn't have to go fanboy on a upcoming Star Wars project, because we've got some very interesting news items on top of existing Star Wars canon stories that are coming out in the form of Star Wars Resistance, and that's where we're going to start.
We have a lot of fantastic new stuff that was announced. We have the stuff that's already live, like you talked about with Resistance. We have rumors. We have directorial missteps, you could say, on Twitter. We'll talk about that. And then we even have some news on Disney's financials. I mean, we have a lot of information here for hardcore Star Wars fans, for casual Star Wars fans even. I mean, this is a pretty jam-packed podcast. And like you said, the last 3 weeks have been kind of bare, where we're picking up, what do we want to see in Mando? What do we want to see in Episode 9? And that stuff's really fun for us to do, because we get to kind of like get the creative juices and the bullshit flowing. But it's always nice to be able to look at the screen and say, like, we have some legit big news items here to talk about. So glad to be back on the news track a little bit.
Yeah, so anyways, we're going to start with our kind of recap, or at least Easter egg recap, of the latest episode of Star Wars Resistance, which I guess I shouldn't have said latest, because by the time you're listening to this, it's technically not going to be the latest, but at least I'll go with episode 6 of Star Wars Resistance.
The Children of Tehar.
Exactly. The Children of Tehar. So, it aired last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago, depending on when you're listening. And it had what I counted to be 7 Easter egg / Star Wars franchise reference moments, and I had to stretch on a few of them. But overall, Nick, I think like the previous episode that we talked about in the last cast, and even the one we saw teased after the Children of Tehar, it seems like Resistance is really starting to settle into its main narrative and building around the idea that Kaz is a Resistance spy looking for intel on the First Order. And it's really, I love how far it's starting to slant in that direction.
Yeah, the first couple of episodes, the first 3 that were dropped on the Disney Now app.
Well, I mean, it was really it was everything outside of the first half of the pilot.
Yeah.
So, as Nick said, basically 2.5 episodes, 3 maybe.
Yeah. It was really light on the actual First Order narrative. And then last week, the previous episode, The High Tower, we finally kind of tickled back into that narrative a little bit. You had, First Order people on the Colossus. They were talking to Captain Doza about, workings, and then, we finally got to see the nefarious plots of the First Order a little bit. But now in the Children of Tehar is when we really get to see the First Order atrocities.
Shit gets deep, man.
Exactly.
Shit gets deep.
Like, it's not just, we're trying to protect you from pirates. This is, we get confirmation that the First Order has essentially wiped out an entire planet's worth of people. Tehar has been completely taken over by the First Order, and their people have been eradicated, aside from these 2 runaways that the First Order is now looking for and has a bounty.
Well, I mean, honestly, dude, the biggest reveal in this episode is they finally mention Kylo.
Exactly. Yeah, this is the first time.
I mean, these kids, as Nick said, they're the only survivors of this Tehar place. And the way they explain it's essentially a grander version of what Kylo did to the village that Lor Santeca was in at the beginning of The Force Awakens, where he just rolls in with Phasma and some troopers and annihilates everyone. I mean, it's like mini genocide.
Yeah, like apparently the First Order had completely taken over Tehar, and the episode starts off, with Kaz. Essentially, it kind of opens up and leads into the storyline. Kaz needs money. He hears somebody on the station.
He's such a... I honestly, I really like Kaz. I like him. He's like a dope, but not a dope.
He's such a... I don't want to... He is very naive. Like, his character is built to be naive.
Totally.
And you see some of that naivety start to be pulled away in this episode, especially, he doesn't really know what bounty hunting is. He hears about these kids.
No, you're right. He's naive on a grand scale in terms of like life, but I also think he's a very skilled spy soldier almost.
It's so funny because
like he's good at that shit, but he sucks at being a mechanic.
Yeah, and it's so funny to see him bumblefuck his way into being good at it. Because, like...
Right. That's why, I don't know, there's something charming about this guy.
Yeah, like...
He's not a traditional hero.
No, he's not. He's like this, and he's not
At least not a Star Wars hero.
He's not an unwilling participant hero, because he's very excited to be a Resistance spy, and all he wants to do is make Poe happy. It seems like, to me, he plays younger than what he probably is. Like, we probably...
Exactly. Yeah. He's not like some little kid. I bet he's in his 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Early 20s.
I mean, we have to remember that before his time on the Colossus, he was a legit
New Republic pilot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was flying New Republic crafts in dogfights against First Order vessels. But, like, when you see this guy on the Colossus, you see his naivety. You see that he acts younger than what he probably is, and he hasn't experienced a lot of the world outside of the bounds of the New Republic. All he knows is that the First Order is bad and that he is a spy for the Resistance. That's what he knows. Everything else to him seems new. It's almost like he was raised from an infant within the New Republic structure to become a pilot, because he doesn't know about a lot of this shit outside. Like, the bounty that's on these kids' head. Like, he's like, oh, I want to collect that bounty. You know, I need the money because he goes to Aunt Z's bar and can't buy a drink. Like, the level of naivety.
Yeah,
in
you're
Kaz,
right. Because even Niku, Mr. Literal, is like, hey, Kaz, you're not a bounty hunter. Dude.
Yeah, he's like, you aren't a bounty hunter.
And Niku's like one of the most positive Star Wars characters ever.
Exactly, and like he already
he is, dude. He is the Drax of Star Wars.
He is the super happy, positive Drax. Like Drax,
but everything's literal though. I mean, everything is literal. That guy.
Yeah.
Just like Drax. I mean, you can't. You can't use any allegories. You can't embellish stuff.
No metaphors.
You have to tell him exactly what you mean.
Yeah, if you do anything other than that, like he will fuck up your day. As Kaz
I
learned
do.
in the
Niku is easily my second favorite character.
Kaz is
because he is. I mean, he's essentially the second main at this point.
Yeah.
He's in every episode. He's basically Kaz's sidekick.
And that's surprising to me because I really expected Yeager to play a bigger part. And even in this episode, we have barely seen him in the last
Barely.
two.
I mean, barely. I mean, he is support character at best.
I mean, at this point, though, our theory of Yeager being the spy for the First Order, it holds up because we have 2 episodes in a row where the First Order is playing a very prominent role. They're on Colossus Station, and he's nowhere to be found. Like, he's just not there. So, I mean, it would make sense for him to stay out of the fray while they're there if he is the one that's supposed to be spying for him.
I don't know. I called it again. It's on tape somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the internet.
I'm sticking to it because I know they're trying to, like, frame Doza, even in this episode. I mean, geez, like, all the illusions they were making with him.
Yeah.
You know, holding that symbol, and like you could tell he knew what the fuck that was.
Exactly.
And someone actually commented on my video breakdown that, you know, maybe he's from Tehar.
It's possible. Yeah, I mean,
right? I mean, it just, you know, that Doza is more than meets the eye. I mean, yeah, he's kind of playing this little I'll play both sides type of guy, but I just feel deep down he's not a bad guy.
No, he's...
And I mean, you know that he knows that the First Order's bad news, but he also knows that he has to play the game.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the galaxy, in the galactic kind of event sphere, the First Order is still a legitimate wing of the New Republic government. Like, it may have splintered off a little bit now, but they're still, like, in the previous episode, there was a threat where Doza said to them, like, I'll just tell the New Republic what you're doing. And that was, like, a legitimate threat to them. So that means that they're still within that sphere of influence of the New Republic government. But, you know, they come right back.
I mean, this is still, again, you know, this isn't full-on TFA, but they're, at this point, I mean, we know Starkiller Base is up and running. I mean, they're starting to hit their peak.
Yeah.
In terms of, all right, we're ready to finally flex our full muscle in front of these chumps.
Yeah. So, jumping into the Easter eggs that we saw.
Yeah, so, I mean, when it comes down to it, just good episode.
Yeah, it was a fantastic
I mean, this show is actually turning into a really, really good Star Wars cartoon.
Yeah, this was by far, this is by far my favorite episode because we do get into that meat of the First Order, the actual spy mission. This is the first one where I feel like this episode was 100% fully dedicated to Kaz's spy mission on the Colossus, figuring out what the First Order is doing, and then passing that information on the
it's
Resistance.
Also, it's just, I think the series is hitting its stride now. I mean, everything's been set up, and now we can just start telling stories that are interesting.
Yeah.
We don't have to do a lot of exposition.
Yeah, so...
And I like it. I like the visual style. I like the characters, and so far I like the narratives they're telling.
Yeah. So you wanna walk us through the Easter eggs you found?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm doing now Easter egg breakdowns on top of recap and reviews. I'm doing videos up on EB. Stay tuned for our special announcement. But anyway, so I like I said, some of these I think were kind of cheap, but I counted up 7. And as always, you know we're good for some Easter eggs whenever Kaz goes to Aunt Z. And lo and behold, in this episode, we got the first 2 Easter eggs popped up, or references, in Aunt Z's bar. So the first one, After Kaz fucks shit up at being a mechanic, he rolls the ANCs to get himself a pop. And he sits down next to a dude who happens to be wearing the Rebel-style headgear that you saw on Hoth. It wasn't yellow or anything, but it was green. But it was very distinctly this Rebel type of helmet, where it's like you got the ear pads and you got goggles. It's very, trust me, it's in the video.
Yeah.
You can
almost
see
looks
it.
like the Fargo hat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not like a babushka, but it's a winter hat that goes over your ears, has a bill, and goggles.
Yeah.
But it's the same shit that Luke was wearing in Empire, or any of the rebels that were fighting the AT-ATs.
Yeah, I mean,
or the ground war.
Even like you posted up the images in comparison. I mean, even hearkening to Rogue One when we saw.
The I'm sorry. Yeah, the Scarif guys, same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of reference to this style of headgear in Star Wars.
It's just not a random piece of headgear, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, and again, like that you have the keenest of eyes, because I mean, I guess I don't scrutinize it as much because I know you're building these, but like there's shit in here that I would not have caught. Like this next one up here, where you like literally like in the background, like top right corner, you find more original trilogy era helmets in Auntie's bar.
Dude, in one of them, I swear to God, is a like Super Trooper helmet from the old Star Wars video games, where like these troopers, they kind of had the frame of a super battle droid, but they were still troopers.
The super commandos.
Yeah, exactly. They had these very wide shoulders and a wider helmet.
Yep.
And that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, and you can see that kind of like it's almost half obscured by Kaz's head.
Yeah, I mean you don't get a full view, but you can still tell.
She is that kind of goes to show. I mean, Auntie, you can tell, is an older woman, but she's definitely got some nostalgia for the Rebellion Imperial days, keeping all of this memorabilia.
We've already found the entire back bar is loaded with original trilogy era helmets.
Yeah, she's definitely a collector.
And fucking aborted EU helmets for all intents and purposes, honestly.
Yeah.
She's got fucking Salacious Crumb posters.
Yeah, she's a huge Star Wars fan for living in the universe. I mean,
I still contend Torredoza, her room is still the biggest treasure.
The shrine, and we didn't even get to see all of it. I mean, we only got to see.
That was insane. That was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I cut that up like we were talking about last week. I cut that up to her father probably being some sort of military personnel back in those days, and then her hearing stories about that directly from him, and then him kind of remaining in the military as much as he can with the New Republic. So yeah, that was
love it. I mean, fucking Ewok teddy bears.
I know, that's again, like, dude, you put it so perfectly too. It's like the fucking New Republic monetized Ewoks. Like they made those dolls. They fucking put it out there. Like, oh my god, dude.
Fucking Wicked's sitting there going, "Yo, where is my cut, bitch?
Where's my creds? I got
nub motherfucker."
Yeah, those fucking Ewoks don't have hyperspace travel. They don't know how to get off the moon yet, so they need those. They need the credits fucking deposited right into their Ewok bank accounts.
Ewoks and Porgs just getting raped over licensing.
Yeah, not fair at all. But so next up we have a Sullustan that you found in the Colossus market.
This to me, dude, this isn't an Easter egg. This is just a reference. And as Nick said, there's a Sullustan. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's a race of alien that looks like our homeboy Numb.
From
everyone knows who he is, right?
Yeah, that's Lando's co-pilot.
Yeah, the guy goes like,
yeah,
when he's like.
When they're making in episode 6, I mean, come on, people. This is basic.
Dude, he's one of my favorite. I'm telling you, like
the design of his face,
all time,
like
of all time, he's one of my favorite, just rando alien Star Wars characters.
It's because like he's one of the only ones that has this super unique design that is prominently featured in like front camera and who interacts.
Dude,
with
he
another.
takes the Chewie role on the Falcon.
Exactly,
he's the fucking co-pilot. And like I said, I mean, he makes that, he goes like,
Yeah, I mean, when they're,
you know exactly what I'm talking
it's so
about,
funny
right?
too, because like when they're making the run into the Death Star, you can actually see him starting to sweat a little bit. Like they put moisture on his face.
Yeah, I love him.
It's so good, man. I mean, so if you, I mean,
plus his face looks like a sideways vagina. I'm being serious. I mean, look at a Soliston's face.
It's definitely a unique design that was intentional, I would imagine, by the Star Wars effects artist.
It's a sideways vagina. It's like a half of a vagina turned on its side.
That's definitely an uncanny resemblance to Nine Numb.
It's pretty damn close. I mean, you got to admit.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he's got like the double lips and everything.
So, if you guys haven't seen Episode 6 or know what we're talking about, I mean, this is Star Wars 101 stuff here. Nine Numb is definitely a character that you should know, and if you don't know who he is, take a look at this video that's attached to
the... He's the best. The motherfucker makes it to TFA.
He does. He does. We see him in the Resistance.
Did he make it through TLJ, or did
I don't
Ryan
think he
just
was
ignore him?
Yeah, he wasn't in TLJ from what I
He was
remember.
ignored like Snap, like he was just
he was like, nah, no more. Like Snap was off doing a separate mission, but he'll be back for
He's
episode
doing
9.
something, even though TLJ happened literally after the end of TFA.
Yeah, like right there. So maybe fucking Snap peeled off after the explosion of Starkiller Base, and then got a cheeseburger or something. Went to the restaurant.
Yain Num.
Yeah,
him and Yain Num.
They went to the restaurant at the end of the universe. Something. Who knows?
All right, so the next one straight up was a layup. Like, I cheated because I even think she was featured in a previous episode, but at least in this one, Doza contacts Captain Phasma of all people
directly,
and really, this is probably the most screen time that Phasma's gotten so far in Resistance. So that's why I listed it, mostly because the great Gwendolyn Christie does voice her. Yeah.
So the good thing about this is that we know now that, you know, the time that she was in Resistance so far for the first episode wasn't going to be her only appearance. Like a lot of times when you have launches of properties like this, you'll have the original actors play their role for one episode, and then they'll transition out and they'll bring in a voice match to do the rest of it. But now we know that these established characters are going to be voiced by their original actors and actresses throughout the entire series.
Disney and Lucasfilm were like, hey, assholes, by the way, you're locked into this shit.
It's like, yeah, look.
It was in Clause 2A, Section 50.
Yeah, it's like, go to page 245 of your contract, and there it is.
You signed this shit, dummies.
Yeah, you're in this until we say that you can go away.
You're now cartoons, you asshole.
Yeah. So it was cool to see her back, and it was also cool to hear Gwendolyn Christie again. But also what I thought was really cool is that we now have a reference to the commander in the gold outfit. Because I think initially before this episode, before this series released, and we were starting to get all these promotional pictures, we were starting to get the trailers for it. Matt and I were both kind of confused whether is this Phasma with an old suit? Is this just the way that the reflection of whatever room she's in looks like? No, we have an actual gold-plated First Order officer. What was his? It was Commander
Pyre.
Yes, Commander Pyre, and he directly reports to Captain Phasma. So dope ass suit, dope ass name, and now we know that this style of armor is probably reserved for some of the higher ranking First Order officers.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, dude, this series, if anything, shows how high up Phasma is. I mean, for all we know, let's say you just walk into this series with no knowledge. She's essentially the boss of the First Order in this show.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
she's who Von Reg reports to, Pyre reports to, Doza's calling her up to butter her up. I mean...
Yeah, I mean...
So it just goes to show, like, how influential she truly is in the First Order. I mean, I don't know if everyone picks that up in the two movies, but...
Yeah.
I mean, she's pretty fucking important.
These people aren't going to Hux. They're not reaching out to
that's my point.
Like that. They're going to Phasma for all this information.
I mean, she might be a captain, but she's essentially just as important as a general, if not more.
Yeah, she's definitely playing a pivotal role of the Imperial, or not the Imperial, the First Order.
I mean, it's pretty much
structure.
implied that she runs the entire trooper division, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's
even
the one
in the movies.
Yeah, she's the one who was in control of the brainwashing, I believe, of the mind, the mind control that all of the new recruits are under. So, I think that is pretty set out as to what can be expected for Phasma's role. Next up, we have a really big mention for this series, and it's the first mention of Kylo Ren as a character, and it comes from the two children who are on the run from the First Order after the slaughter at Tehar, and they mention that, that Kylo Ren was there and he led the slaughter, and they mentioned his laser sword, as they put it.
That I think that was even at least cooler for me as a fan, is that they called it a laser sword from the old Jedi stories. I think that's important that gets established in this time frame, just to remind everyone that at this point in time, the Jedi have been gone for what, dude? Fucking 60 years?
Yeah, I mean, outside of Luke having his presence kind of in the galaxy again, the prominence of the Jedi had been gone.
Yeah, but even to them, and that's, again, why Luke's Acts and 8 are supposed to be so grand, is even at this point in time, these people don't even know if Luke was real or not. He's a legend.
Yeah.
And that's why when Luke does what he does in Jedi is so important, because he comes out and reaffirms to all these young people that this ain't just a fucking legend, my friends. This shit's real.
Yeah, and then it's coming back. I mean, that's at the end of it when he says that he is not the last Jedi. I mean, he's, he only says it to Kylo, but that is an assurance to the fans and to the galaxy as a whole that, this legacy that has spanned thousands of generations is not dead yet. It may look different, but it will not die with the First Order, just like it didn't completely die with the Empire. So that is, that's his ultimate goal. But we don't get to see him in cartoon form yet. I know that kind of.
We're not. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's not on the show.
Yeah, so we're not gonna see him. I mean, maybe
if he is, it's gonna be like a fucking
yeah, exactly
moment, because it was never revealed. Nothing. They never mentioned Adam Driver. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he would make more sense to put on the show than Rey, because at this point, Rey is literally just a scavenger on Jakku.
No, Kylo could be on it, and so could fucking FN 2187.
Yeah, I mean, they could make both of those characters work here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just getting the mention of him and getting his name out there, and then also it
was great.
The reaction. I mean, I know this is towards the end, and we're gonna come up on what is essentially the final Easter egg. But towards the end, when Kaz passes that information on to Eloatsi, the reaction that he gives, and then what he says after, saying that I'll pass this information on to General Leia or General Organa is key. Because
I mean, you can tell that they know who Kylo is, but you also tell the fact that he's going and wasting villages and planets is concerning.
Yeah,
it's like he's increasing his behavior type of shit.
Exactly. Like this hasn't become the norm yet. Like this is something that's new.
Yeah, this is kind of new. Like they're starting to get way more aggressive.
Yeah. So since I just mentioned it, we'll just jump to 7 and then back to 6, which is Eloatsi from Force Awakens. He was a pilot there, makes his debut in this series as Kaz's new point of contact for his, spy information for the Resistance while Poe is out.
He's just, I mean, at least coming from a toy, the toy community perspective, he's kind of like a cult classic. because even though he didn't have any, I think he might have had like a blurb in TFA, and then he ultimately gets blown up. They still made an action figure of him.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's actually a cool looking action figure. So he's actually kind of a hero in Star Wars lore, even though he really didn't do shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a unique design though. Like that's another alien design that.
Yeah, it was one of the new alien designs that JJ and his team cooked up for TFA.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't other aliens that looked like him prior.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic design, fantastic execution, and then also really cool. Again, like this is the kind of stuff that you get in these.
And
TV
his
series.
name is Elo Asti, which is Hello Nasty, you know, JJ and BC Boys, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's another one of those things though where you get to see a character who played literally a bit part and get blown up in TFA, fleshed out in these TV series. So he's not just another nameless face that goes out in TFA. Like he played a pivotal part of the Resistance spy structure prior to The Force Awakens.
Well, I mean, dude, the fact that I put him on this list shows how important he is, even though he's not important.
Yeah. I mean, I assume that this.
I mean, the fact that it's like, oh shit, they got Elo up in this bitch.
So I mean, it just goes to show you that there's a lot of stuff to be had here, and also, you know, the characters that you see in the live action TV or the live action movies, you know, even though they may have small parts there, play bigger parts, and they can get fleshed out in series like this or Clone Wars or Rebels or anything like that. So good stuff. And then jumping back to number 6, there is a distinct looking lander. That
oh dude, I mean it is basically when Commander Pyre shows up, he jacks Kylo's command ship to get there.
Yeah, I mean it looks
that's all I can. I mean it is his fucking command shuttle.
Yeah, unless we're talking like
fucking Imperial shuttles as they used them in the original trilogy. You know, where they all looked. I mean, honestly, that's one of my favorite looking ships from the original trilogy.
Yeah, the Imperial.
For better reference, Shuttle Tidarium, you know, the Imperial fucking shuttle.
Just, fly casual. Anyway, but
Exactly. Yeah, he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, fly casual.
That's my favorite part because that's why I love Star Wars so much because you literally have main characters that don't speak English and don't have subtitles, but
you know their exact reaction. Like
you know what they're saying based on how their human counterparts react to it.
Yeah. So, but I think you may be right. Like, I'm so used to the distinctive shape and like look of this shuttle because this used to be one of my main shuttles in Galaxy of Heroes for a while when I was building up my fleet command. But I think you may be onto something that this is just like standard design for First Order. Like this is something we were talking about off cast is that like First Order and Imperial kind of design is very militaristic and it's also very standard. Like things all are designed the same exact way. Like whereas
it's just like the Empire. I mean, it's fucking it's the mass production.
Yeah, and the only exception to that rule so far for both, you know, the Imperial side and the First Order side is your custom crafts for both Kylo Ren and for Darth Vader. So I do think that this, I don't know. I mean, it would be very interesting to see.
I would even argue that Kylo's is way more custom than Vader's because Vader's was still a TIE cockpit.
Yeah.
With modified wings.
Yeah, exactly.
Really.
Like he just, I mean, basically what they needed to do is they probably needed to widen the cockpit a little bit to fit his big ass in there. But that it's like a modified TIE interceptor. That's essentially
exactly.
what it is.
I mean, it doesn't have the pronged wings. It has basically bent TIE wings.
Yeah, exactly.
Like folded over TIE wings.
Yeah, whereas like Kylo's is a 100% custom job. Like
it's not even close to the First Order ties are ties.
Yeah, I mean it looks dope as fuck.
They have cooler looking wings. That's about it.
Yeah, and that's it. Like your pattern on the wings is different, but essentially it's all the same. I don't think First Order ties have hyperspace capabilities. No, they don't because they have to jump out from the ship.
Well, no, they do. I mean, Von Regs did.
Von Regs did, but I don't think the rest of them
But
did.
that was like that was essentially a TIE interceptor.
Yeah, I don't know if the rest of them.
I don't think. Yeah, okay. I mean, if we want to get super nerdy, it might not be a default option, but I think at this point they can be fitted with hyperdrives if they need them.
Yeah, 100%. So that kind of hits on all the Easter eggs. The only thing I would
I mean, go ahead.
No, so the only one that I might add is that when Kaz is talking to people around the station about Tehar, somebody says, "I've never heard of it. I think it might be in the unknown regions," which is
exactly. Yeah. You're exactly right.
Which is an interesting call out, considering that a lot of the speculation around Snoke and around where he was prior to the rise of the First Order was that he was hanging out in the unknown regions of space, waiting, kind of biding time for him to kind of make his re-entrance into the galaxy. So I thought that was pretty cool to see that along in the conversation that happened.
No, I agree. I mean, they definitely didn't make that reference on accident, and I kind of hate that I didn't list it. It was one I questioned, but it was something of note to pay attention to.
Yeah.
All right, so moving right along, dude, I think we go on to a quick one, something we get through fairly efficiently, and it's pretty much a no-shit Sherlock type of news announcement. But it was announced that Disney has officially made back their Star Wars investment on box office ticket sales alone. So that means they've made $4.86 billion in movie ticket sales after investing $4 billion in the property back in 2012.
Yeah. So all that money's come back.
It's like, okay, big surprise.
Yeah, all that money's. I mean, really, if you just sat down and did a little bit of math, you could figure that out. I mean, box office numbers are readily available for every movie as soon as they release, and also up for eternity on sites like Box Office Mojo. So if you want to look it up,
in three movies they made 4.8, and you have to factor in one of those only made like what, 300 million.
Yeah, 300 million. So
that's fucking crazy. I mean, for all you people that want to say The Last Jedi was a cinematic failure piece of garbage, I mean,
it made like $1.12 billion or something like that.
I mean, people must just be dumb as shit and willing to go and see crap over and over, because movies don't make that amount of money unless there's repeat screenings.
Yeah.
That's not just on initial ticket sales around the world. That is people like Nick and I watching it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, that's a big carry for huge franchises like Star Wars, like Marvel, is the return services of those people going back and seeing it. And like Matt said, we've seen all of them multiple times. So, I mean, that's why your box office is reflected the way it is in TFA, TLJ, and then in Rogue One as well. I mean, for Solo, we've talked about it over and over again at length. I mean, that movie lost easily $500 million due to its release window. And
well, I bring it up in the post. I mean, I basically say this number could be well over $5 billion.
Oh yeah.
If Iger and these idiots weren't so fucking cocky. I mean, think about it, people. Right now, we could be pining for a new Star Wars movie coming out in December.
Yeah, we could have the countdown clock right now. We could be saying we're 45 days out from release. But unfortunately, due to hubris, basically, I mean, this is just pure cockiness that they were like, no, we're releasing it alongside of all the other massive movies with little to no time for re-edits, little to no time for for everything to be finished after Ron wraps up, and little to no advertising done for this movie. I mean, you dropped one big spot during the Super Bowl game, and that was it. That was your time. Yeah. And
2 months after, a lot of people want to burn down Disney for Star Wars, by the way.
Poorly executed, poorly thought out, just kind of...
Dude, I mean, the more I think about it, it's just like, what the fuck were they thinking? I mean, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me, if they waited until now to release this movie, that there would not be a bigger groundswell of hype for it going on.
There would be. I mean, you would have more time for the people involved with it, the names that are involved with it. That's the thing about this movie, about Solo, is that they had names behind it. Donald Glover, Emilia Clarke, Woody Harrelson, Paul Bettany. I mean, you had legitimate star power behind this movie, which is unlike any other Star Wars movie that you've ever released. Everybody else in a Star Wars movie has made their name off of Star Wars, aside from Laura Dern and TLJ. And this is the first one where you have star power and you squander it because you don't give the people enough time to go out there and pound the pavement and get the fans behind it. I mean, it's a missed opportunity at the least, and just a colossal fuck up at the most.
It set back Disney's vision probably 5 years by dropping that movie.
The cancellation of one movie alone is
right.
A 2-year
we
setback.
already know they officially canceled a standalone, and we can infer that they've probably canceled at least one other Solo movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Ron Howard and Alden are on record saying that they were going to make more movies if this one did well.
Yeah, I mean, John Kasdan as well. I mean, he was, when he put out.
This is, we're not just making shit up. I mean, pretty much anyone involved said we had stories locked and loaded.
Yeah, they were ready to go. But
like this shit, I mean, like Nick said, Kasdan said we were planning to resolve the Kira Solo thing in a third act.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I mean, maybe we'll look back in 10 years and say Disney needed this punch in the face to realize that Star Wars is not an infallible property. But right now,
yeah, I mean, you could look at it that way, but that's what positive people do. I look at it as like, you guys fucked this shit up. You fucked up your future plans. I mean, honestly, dude, when we get to the Cassian story, I'm going to make a case that some of this type of shit, I think they might have been planning for the Tatooine movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. We could, yeah.
And they're just pivoting now and be like, hey, fuck it. We're trying to launch this streaming service, so let's go.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's move on to not Cassian.
We're going to move on to a little bit of Twitter beef.
But someone else that likes to deal with streaming platforms and social media streaming platforms at that. And that's our buddy Rian Johnson, who seemingly can't let I don't know. I mean, he just can't leave TLJ alone at this point in terms of defending it.
He can't, he's too attached to it. And when this story first popped and you wrote about it, we talked a little bit offline, and I said that he is one of the only creators, not just Star Wars creators, but creators in general that do this type of thing, that put out a vision like this, and no matter what you make, people are going to have dissenting opinions about what you did.
Of course.
It's just that
there is no perfect art. I don't think it exists.
No, but I have never seen a creator, a director, a writer, a musician, anybody do what he does as consistently as he does on Twitter for as long as he does. So again, this is another situation that we're talking about where people are out there on the internet. Nobody's on Twitter just talking about TLJ and why it's bad storytelling and why Luke.
Well, here's the set, the full setup. There's this podcast out there that apparently Rian endorses. They put out a poll based on the news that rumors we heard that Disney's trying to course correct Star Wars after TLJ. True or not, whatever. They put the poll out. Do you feel it has to be course corrected? A blue check mark comes in, not Ryan, just some dude, that it kind of laid down his opinion of TLJ and why he doesn't think needs course corrected because he thinks TLJ was great, everything was handled perfectly, whatever. Obviously, the poll creator felt the same way, so they get into a conversation where they're both being very positive about TLJ. And then as anything happens on social media, a troll comes in and basically says, you guys are fucking dumb for having the opinion you have. And they're like, dude, okay, whatever. I mean, you can't really just come in and say that when we're having an objective conversation, blah, blah. And then it gets into the pissing match, and then another guy comes in and is like, yeah, whatever. I mean, this, that, and the other thing. You can't fundamentally change the character of Luke Skywalker. And that's when finally Ryan, as Nick said, steps in.
Yeah, and Ryan...
And what does he say? Go ahead, read all. What does he say? So like I said,
quote.
I mean, the guy basically says that this, that, or the other thing, my biggest beef with TLJ was that you can't fundamentally change who a character is.
So this is, Ryan's response, in quotes, hot take, Luke is in fact 100% consistent with his character, not the way he's described in marketing blurbs, but his actual based on his words and actions character from the OT. I'll be at the bar.
And honestly, my friends, he's right. But, as Nick said, at this point in time, what purpose does this serve?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he needs to realize is that for 100 years, this shit is going to happen. Like, it doesn't matter.
You don't win these battles, Nick.
Yeah, like, there's no way that Ryan can squash enough to make it stop forever. And I think at a certain point, as a creator, you have to realize that your vision is not going to be like you said, the perfect art, and that people are going to disagree with it and people are going to argue with it until you hit the fucking ground. Like, and I don't know, like, look, I know that Rian Johnson probably has a lot of time right now because he's slowly working on his new trilogy. He's probably got time to peruse Twitter.
He's literally actively shooting a movie right now called Knives Out.
Okay, well, never mind then. He probably doesn't.
The motherfucker's shooting a goddamn Hollywood film right now, and he's still getting mixed up in this stuff.
Yeah. I mean...
But it's like we said offline. I think the difference here, and you're exactly right, I've never really seen a director go to these lengths to defend his vision. I think it comes down to the fact that he is just as big of a fanboy as you and me and a lot of us. Yeah. And he just, I think it hurts him deep down, and he genuinely wants to be like, no, listen, my vision was correct, literally, if you go by the playbook.
Yeah. It's
like if you really analyze the character of Luke and the decisions he made when he was young and what happened with young Kylo, he would totally do this because he would think this was the right call.
Yeah. So I was, I'm the person who's in the camp of not liking the way that he's portrayed in the movie as well. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say that it's wrong, because there is no wrong way to portray the character. Like, that's the thing about working within this sphere and having undecided character plots up until the point where you're creating, is that you have the ability to build that character from the last point that we saw him to where he is now, and we can't really tell you one way or another. But here's how I'll break it down. This is what I told Matt offline when this story first broke, is that Luke in the OT had this bravado. He had this no fear approach to anything because of the situation that the galaxy was in at the time and who he was at the time. In the OT, it is an active state of oppression and just tyranny within the galaxy. And something needed to be done about it by somebody. And at the time, Luke Skywalker was a nobody. He was this supposed heir to the Jedi, only known by Ben Skywalker, Yoda, and then, Captain...
Probably Palpatine.
Palpatine, maybe. He probably had hints. But then also Organa. Senator Organa. He knew about Luke as well, and Leia. The thing is that he was a nobody to the galaxy. So he made the decisions that he made, the rash, head in his ass decisions to run fucking at Vader at Cloud City. He made the decision to turn off his targeting computer and trust the Force. And in the Death Star trench run in Episode 4, he.
And that was an easy one to accept because you could literally hear Ben telling
and is
him
here,
to do
but
it.
like
But the Bespin thing, you make a great point.
At the time,
And I think a lot of people forget though that Luke is also a human, and he probably learned from that decision.
Exactly.
Do you not think he learned from that Bespin decision,
oh
my
yeah,
friends?
he definitely did. But at the time, he was a nobody. Like if Luke Skywalker runs into Bespin, fights Darth Vader, and gets his head cut off, it's not going to reverberate around the galaxy like it is if Luke's at that time he was a hero, but he was
known even by Vader at this point as the rebel pilot that blew up the Death Star. So he definitely had
notoriety,
a bit of machismo behind him at this point.
He had notoriety, but like if Biggs makes that shot, Biggs is in the same situation that Luke is. Now,
yeah, he's not like this mystical Jedi figure yet.
Exactly. Like he's a hero that took down the Death Star, but he's not mythic,
he's a good pilot.
Legendary proportions like he is now in TLJ. Now in TLJ, Luke knows that any decision that he makes is going to have an effect that will ripple throughout the fabric of the galaxy, and it will affect everybody. Luke dies in Episode 5. There's a few people out there who care, but it's not going to fundamentally change the way that the rebellion is facing and attacking the Empire. They have one person who died, who was a hero at one time, but they will move on. Now,
well, they probably don't win. But yeah,
I mean, like it changes the course of things, but it doesn't necessarily change the perception of the war. If Luke Skywalker and TLJ goes out there and he makes a decision that fucks up the possibility of the Resistance winning, or he gets killed, that will change the perception of the war and of the Resistance's chance of fighting off the First Order completely. If you see Luke go down in a bad way, then it's over, and that's it. There's no hope left. Previously, if Luke goes down, there's still hope left. And I think that's the big difference, is that he's now this mythic, legendary person that one small thing that he does has a massive effect on everything. Previously, that didn't apply, and that's why Luke is essentially living in fear on Acto the entire time.
No, it is. I agree. I mean, that's a valid point. That's definitely plays into the Luke we get, but I also think the Luke we get in 8 is a Luke that is derived from his previous choices in life.
Yeah, I mean, he can probably.
I think he does reflect on his Bespin decision, and he does ultimately understand that was a bad move. Because what happens? I mean, he ends up getting Han frozen in carbonite. He ends up getting his hand chopped off. And he ultimately almost gets himself killed, and all of his friends. And his friends obviously were the linchpins in the rebellion being successful. He also realizes that the only reason he was able to defeat his father is because he allowed himself to tap into the dark side. But he instantly realized that mistake and corrected it. But he then again tapped into it with Kylo, and that's why he eventually was like, fuck.
Yeah. I mean,
like I can't trust myself. Pretty much anything I touch turns to shit. Anything I believe in is fucking shit. Everything I was told about the Jedi is shit. So I'm better off taking myself off the chessboard and just letting these fuckers figure it out.
Yeah.
Because if I get involved, I'm just gonna fucking make it worse.
Yeah. And my beef with the perception or with the portrayal of Luke in Episode 8.
We talked about it. I mean, I think this is at least our true beef, or your true beef, I do believe, is derived from this.
Yeah. And it's his treatment of Rey. It's not that
100%.
Yeah, it's not that he's, a hermit living off on an island. No, it's the way that he treats Rey through the entirety of her time there. And he treats her like she's a joke, and I think that's unfair to the character of Rey.
He resents her for he resents her for his own resentment of the Force, and it doesn't. That, I will agree, goes against the character of Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, And I know that, like, the reason that they did that is so you could have that Yoda moment, but I don't think that it was worth it. Like,
no.
It was, is it cool to see Puppet Yoda come back and knock him on the head?
Whatever. They still could have done Puppet Yoda without making Luke an asshole.
Exactly. Like, that to me is against the fundamental character of Luke Skywalker.
Right. Well, and I'll go on record saying that, but I'll also come out and tell you from day one, I never walked out of a screening of The Last Jedi going, man, I'm really bummed out how they treated Luke. Yes, like a lot of you, I had my own visions of what I wanted Luke to be in 8. I'm telling you right now, the first time I saw it, I still, in the back of my head, thought the motherfucker was going to raise his X-Wing out of the goddamn ocean and show up on the Battle of Crate and start fucking blasting motherfuckers. I kid you not. That's the shit I had going on in my head even watching it. But when it played out the way it played out, I was still very satisfied. But as Nick said, almost a year later now, and even when I first watched it, but again, I'm still sticking by my initial impression. I really didn't feel bothered by Luke whatsoever. But if you want me to critique it, 100%, I agree with Nick. The way he treated Rey was fucked up.
Yeah.
It was fucked up. He was taking out his own disappointments in himself and the Force, whatever, on her, and it just made no sense for his character. I get it. He became a bit disenfranchised. He was a hermit. He was a cynic. But I don't see a Luke just being a complete dickhead.
Yeah, it was...
I mean, yeah, even Yoda fucked with Luke when he first showed up on Dagobah. But that was just kind of to test his resolve. I mean, Luke just fucks with Rey just to be a dick.
Yeah, it was... and that's my main thing, is, like, I could see him doing that, like, pulling the Yoda and doing that, but then, like, coming around. My problem is that he never came around. Like,
not until she leaves.
Yeah, and it's... I mean, even up until the time when she leaves, like, when he taps back into the Force, like, he doesn't approach that conflict, like, that confrontation, the way that he probably should have.
Well, no, he was getting ready to burn the tree down, and, fucking Homeboy shows up and does it for him.
Yeah.
But it really, you're right. It's not until Yoda shows up that Luke gets that he fucked up.
Yeah, and
he gets that, you know what, I do have to do something.
Yeah, and I mean, like, for a puppet Yoda, cameo, to me, it's not worth that. But I mean, we've talked about TLJ and our feelings on TLJ, and, like, I'll say that, like, I've softened on it a lot since the initial theater release, and this is where I stand now. I mean, if you go listen to the cast right outside of TLJ, the first one where we're talking about our initial impressions, our thoughts and stuff like that, I am way, way harder on that movie than I am now. And it takes time to process this, to kind of, like, that character, the way that Luke is portrayed, and Luke Skywalker's character as a whole is such a deep character that it's hard to resolve what you see in that movie quickly. Like, it takes some time to process it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to take it differently. It is a major guy, but, I mean, there's a lot of factors that you have to kind of boil into your interpretation. You also have to remember that he's not a main character anymore.
Yeah.
He's never meant to be in this new trilogy. This new trilogy was solely meant to kick off the new cast, at least for these 3 movies. Who knows if they'll carry on into the Game of Thrones bros or Ryan's trilogies. I doubt it. But as much as we wanted this new trilogy to be about Han, Leia, and Luke, that's not what it was ever intended to be.
Yeah. So
at least not once Disney took it over.
No. Yeah. I mean, we weren't gonna get a trilogy where Han, Luke, and Leia just go at heroics again the same way that they did in the OT. It wasn't in the cards, and it wasn't physically possible. I mean, these are 60, 70-year-old actors. I mean, it needed to be done the way that it was done. But I mean, again, like, if you want to see the whole thread of what Ryan, this thread that the Twitter exchange happened on, and then where Rian came in, you can find that. We have it linked in the post on eb.com, or so you can follow it there. But just to bring it back around to the original part, the original purpose of this article here, like, I really do think that Rian needs to step away now, and he needs to just let the internet be the internet. Like Rian has a trilogy of movies that he's in charge of. He has a movie that he's in charge of right now, and he has to come to the realization that, like, no matter how many times he says that he's 100% right, the people aren't going to buy it, and it's not going to change anybody's mind. And all he's doing is, I mean, honestly, by doing that, what he's doing is he's fueling it more, because he's going on record saying that I'm 100% right, you're wrong, whatever you think is not correct, where what he should be doing is just saying, like, hey, everybody can have their own opinion about it.
Or just not saying anything.
Or just not say anything, yeah. Like, that's the best thing, is to not say anything and let the internet be the internet. But by going on there and saying that you're wrong, I'm right, it's not helping anything. That's my opinion on it.
No, I mean, you're 100% correct. I don't get it either. I mean, yeah, defend it right after the movie, maybe a month or two after, but a year after, it's like, dude, trolls are trolls. That's why they're called trolls.
Yeah, just gotta let it go.
Let it go. Let it go.
Matt's got that as his ringtone.
I have
on
a
his phone.
2.5-year-old. That's her new shit on top of original trilogy Star Wars, so I can't complain too much. Honestly, I like Frozen, so shut the fuck up.
That's a beautiful thing, though. 2.5-year-old watching OT Star Wars. That is good parenting.
Yeah, I have a video of my kid literally with her eyes glued to the TV, listening to the Imperial March.
I mean, that is perfect. What more?
As if I'm playing Let It Go.
Yeah.
All right, man. So moving on, we've got a kind of a wacky, honestly, something we've talked about in the past, but it's kind of being brought up again with some actor implications, and it's a Star Wars 9 character rumor, in particular the character that Matt Smith may be playing. And according to the Weekly Planet podcast, which I actually like these guys. I don't listen to their podcast, but Mr. Sunday, he does some good stuff on YouTube. He's part of it. But anyways, apparently they've had someone that is in the know tell them that Matt Smith will be playing a young version of Sheev Palpatine.
Okay, I'm not a fan of this idea for two reasons. One, unless you're gonna go a route that makes Snoke and Palpatine linked in some way, there is no explainable reason why we should have that. Right.
Palpatine hasn't even been fucking referenced yet.
No, yeah, not at all. I mean,
nothing.
Okay, well,
like Kylo, you'd think as big of a hard-on as he has for the dark side, you think he would at least casually have referenced Palpatine? No. His boner's for Vader, not Palpatine.
The only mention of Palp that we got was from Luke, in fact, saying Darth Sidious took over the Senate and led to the fall of the Jedi in the Galactic Republic days. That was the only mention of Palpatine, and he was mentioned as Darth Sidious. He throws his
fucking prequel name in.
Yeah, exactly. He's mentioned as his Sith name, Darth Sidious, not as Emperor Palpatine. So it would not make sense to me.
Terrible name, by the way. I mean, how generic was that fucking name? And then he uses Sifo Dyas on another one.
Yeah, it's
like, what was he doing back then, man?
Yeah, I know. It's like, that was a dope ass name, man.
What the fuck? Like, okay, you settle on Sidious, but then how do you go? Yeah, I'm gonna call this Jedi Sifo Dyas.
Yeah.
How are you in that room going? Yeah, George, it sounds like a great idea.
I'm telling you that nobody read the scripts. Nobody read them except George and the actors, and they were like, all right, this is what we got. We're going with it.
Because I just watched, sorry, tangent time. I just watched one of the later episodes of Clone Wars: The Lost Chapters.
And they go into Sifo Dyas.
It is. It's a whole episode dedicated to Sifo Dyas, and they legitimize him as a legit disenfranchised Jedi who Dooku kind of used to order the clone army, and that's when Yoda realizes that all this time, essentially, the Sith have ordered the army for the Jedi to use to fight the Sith.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
But again, they make this Sifo Dyas, who's just casually referenced in Attack of the Clones, they make him legit. But, I mean, Sifo Dyas and Sidious, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's super, super close. I mean, I don't know, man. And
like, I honestly, when I first heard Sifo Dyas, I was like, oh, that's just like someone was playing telephone with Sidious's name, and that's how the Jedi got it mixed up.
Yeah, I mean, they really...
No. It's a legitimate character, and there's also Sidious.
Yeah, it's... Honestly,
anyways,
I really do feel like they just use a name generator, or George used a name generator at some time. But anyway...
I have a great idea.
Yeah.
We have Darth Sidious, and then we're going to have Jedi Master Sifo Dyas.
Yeah, so here's... And like I said, we have Palpatine's whole story, as is canon, in the movies. I mean...
For the most part, I mean, outside of who he was before Senator.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm talking about canon-wise. Like, we have nothing canon-related now that is referencing that. So, canon-wise, we have his whole story from rise through the Galactic Republic ranks as a senator, taking over as Chancellor, revealing himself as... Well, not even revealing himself as a Sith Lord, but, being a Sith the whole time, manipulating to his fall at the end. I don't know what benefit or what they could bring to this character in young form unless it is directly working with Snoke.
Right. I mean, that's how we have to think about it. Who cares about the character? What matters is how's it even relevant to Episode 9?
Exactly. And
like, that's what you got to sell me on. I don't give a fuck if you're going to go with a young Sheev. Fine. How does it tie into the story being told now? Where's the relevance? Because so far, if you didn't watch the original trilogy or the prequels, and you've only seen 7 or 8, you don't even know who the fuck Palpatine is.
Yeah, like, you have no idea. Like Luke said, Darth Sidious, and you have no idea who that is. The only thing, and like I was saying, is that you would have to link these two characters, and you would have to make it essentially retell the Plagueis story, where Snoke is Plagueis, and then, Sheev tries to kill him, and then he survives, goes off into the unknown regions, and then when Palp dies at the end of 6, like, he starts plotting his comeback. I mean, slowly, but he starts plotting it.
I mean, honestly, I'm almost ready to give you a fucking writing deal for that.
But I just don't, I don't see... Because I know that one of JJ's things is to try to resolve the character of Snoke in some way, and that would be...
Well, I mean, honestly, to me, if they do what you just proposed, which honestly, as a fanboy, I'd love to see, but that's course correction shit to me.
It is. It's course correction... But it's not overwriting what Rian did. It's adding additional context to the character.
Well, it's basically coming in and saying, "Hey, fans, can we suck your dick?"
Yeah, it's definitely
right? I mean,
hardcore
that's what
fan
that would
service.
be. I mean, if we're gonna tie this all together, and yes, Snoke was truly Plagueis. That's basically, hey guys, we heard you're bitching, and let us jerk you off.
Yeah, I mean, it's fan service to the max, but. I mean, I think we both talked about it a little bit. Like, we want some sort of resolution to the character of Snoke.
Yeah, but I don't need it in Episode 9.
No.
I've been on the record saying I would take a Snoke resolution or a Snoke knowledge dump in comic book or book form.
Yeah. The only other...
Live TV series form at this fucking point.
Yeah.
Which we're going to get to. I mean, shit, people. You better watch out.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit coming.
Disney Plus, people. Fuck.
Required. But anyway, the only other way that I could see them doing this with a young Palp is through a holocron. And I'll kind of break down how this would happen. So, essentially what would have to happen is that, say this is true, the rumors previously about the vaults that we talked about. This is probably 3 weeks ago or a month ago. There's a rumor that says that Kylo is going in search of these vaults, which is in line with the storyline from Battlefront 2. The Emperor had a lot of hidden vaults throughout the galaxy where he stored memorabilia and stored items that he thought important to not only his own legacy, but to the legacy of the Empire. And then that's where he also did research to find out about this unknown force that was in the unknown regions of space. In one of those, Kylo could find a holocron that was made by young Palpatine in his pre-Senate days and find out some shit there. I don't know what the content of it would be, but that's another avenue.
Dude, I know you're stretching, you're trying, but
yeah.
It's like, what's the fucking point? Like, why the fuck would we have a holocron of a young pre-Sith Master Palpatine? It's like,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it, like...
Here's another possibility. Again, it's so remote because it would require everyone to have at least watched Star Wars Rebels, because Rebels does define with canon that there's time travel in the Star Wars universe. I mean, Ezra literally goes back in time and saves Ahsoka. As Ezra is seeing moments from the future and the past, and I forget the realm that they were calling it. But you could technically propose, as you're going on your crazy-ass explanations about how they could get this in, you could also say that maybe there's some time traveling going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible too. I mean,
because it is established now in canon that there's time travel in Star Wars.
I mean, if there's one thing I don't want JJ to do in a Star Wars movie, it's time travel.
That's what I mean, dude. It's like, how fucking far out do we have to get to justify a young Sheev played by Matt Smith in this? Yeah. And even as you said, what if it's just a hologram? Why the fuck would they bring in an actor like that, like of that geek status, for a fucking throwaway bullshit shot?
The only, I mean, like, again, this is a stretch. The only other thing I can think of is if it's the same thing that I was talking about before, where it's like wrapping up Snoke and Palp as former buddies, but like maybe, you know, Kylo is doing some sort of research, or he's like, you know, he's digging into the Force hardcore, and he starts seeing.
No, your original pitch is really the only route, like you said. I mean, and again, it has to involve Kylo, because it has to be him searching something out or trying to figure out something he's missing, or he feels he's missing from Snoke's training, and you know, maybe he is reaching back into the past through the Force somehow, and he's seeing that, oh shit, Snoke did cross paths with Palpatine, so on and so forth. But I don't know. I mean, are they going to go those lengths in the movie?
Here's an interesting point. So, the motivating factor for Anakin to make the fall to the dark side is this notion of immortality through the Force, and it was promised to him by Palpatine.
Oh, you think Kylo's going to get the hard on for that now?
I mean, what's left? What's left for him? Like, at this point, if there's no instigating factor that comes from the outside that forces him into a position to where he needs to defend either his throne as leader of the Resistance or the First Order, or forces him to for some reason ally with the Resistance, then what's left for him other than seeking out ultimate power?
I don't know. I'm also just thinking now, like, dude, they're gonna have to make such a big time jump to justify that there's any real struggle between the Resistance, or we could probably call them the New Rebellion at this point, and the First Order. Because, I mean, let's face it, the way 8 ends, there is no fucking resistance. There's like enough people to sit on a Corellian freighter, and that's it.
Yeah, you got 14 people on the Millennium Falcon, and that's your resistance.
Versus essentially the Empire minus a Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, you're talking full force, like, First Order. Other than
you know what I mean though, like how is there even a conflict going on now?
Yeah, I mean even after Empire, there was still a large.
We had the whole Rebel fleet still.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was enough of the rebellion left that you could amass.
That was the beauty of really A New Hope and Empire, is that the rebellion only doled out little bits of its forces.
Yeah.
For major victories. I mean, no major victories in Empire. I mean, they had a setback, but they did. It's not like even the Battle of Hoth, they lost a lot. They didn't lose much.
No.
I mean, they didn't. That's not their full fleet. I mean, their full fleet has always been scattered and hidden throughout the galaxy.
Yeah, and
I mean, A New Hope, they sent a bunch of goddamn fucking X-wings to fight a Death Star. That's it.
Yeah, and it wasn't until Episode 6 where they had the full force of the rebellion.
The capital ships. You don't get a. You don't get a rebellion capital ship until the end of Empire, and that's only when they're scuttling away with the beat-down Skywalker family.
Exactly.
Who literally just got their ass kicked.
Yeah. Luke's got no hand. You got fucking everybody leaving Cloud City.
Han's gone.
Yeah,
I mean, the Empire literally face-fucked the rebellion via Luke and Leia.
Yeah. I mean, it was... So I think you're right. Like we have to, unless this is the only thing that I can think of. And again, like I'm trying to make this work to where both of these things are possible. Where Matt Smith's in this as fucking Palp, and we're relatively soon after 8. The only thing I can think of is Leia put out that call right before the end, and she didn't hear anything back immediately. The only thing I can think is that people respond just later than they were hoping.
Didn't they even say that some responded and said basically sorry? I'm almost positive that happens. Like they really come to the realization, like, yeah, we ain't got we've got nothing.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and see if there was.
But I think that was more in terms of we've got no support here on Crate. Maybe not. We have no support anymore.
Exactly. Like it was a huge ask for them to say, like, hey, we're on this pretty desolate backwater planet.
Come here where you're gonna get wasted.
Yeah,
but
like
maybe
right now, we got 20 minutes. Can you be here? Like that's a big ask. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they can pull that. Maybe they can say that, like, these forces have now gathered after Leia's final call.
I mean, I even think Boyega has been on record saying there's a definite time jump. I mean, 3 years, you could definitely form a new rebellion.
Yeah. So I think that's probably...
Anyways, I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, we went way off the rails for this one. Not way. We were still close, but it got a little tangent.
And this honestly, people, this isn't the first time we heard that a Palpatine could show up in the movie. This is just... this kind of expands upon what we initially heard, where, as Nick brought up, there could be a Battlefront 2 type of moment where Kylo flicks open a knick-knack and it's a Palpatine holo kind of giving him answers or directing him towards answers at one of his dark side bunkers.
Yeah.
But now they're just kind of tying it to one of the big known actors that is attached to the film and trying to set it up that way. So, I mean, who knows? As we lined out, I mean, it would take some narrative wizardry, or you basically be thrown away this big geek cred style actor. Like, I mean, I'm not calling him a huge actor because I don't really think he is. But I think in the geek world, he definitely has some pull.
Yeah.
So why waste it all on basically a cameo?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. And I mean, like, he was an announcement. Like, usually you don't get announcements for cameos.
Like, you're not a fucking 2-minute scene guy getting a punch up.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna have Matt Smith, like you said, I want it to be more than just a throwaway. But we'll see what happens. Next,
honestly, man, you slap some fucking blue paint on that asshole and red eyes, he looks like a Thrawn.
you could pull it off for sure. Yeah.
I know I keep trying to jam Thrawn into everything, but
Hey, man. I mean, eventually you're gonna be right. I mean, 5 years from now, when we finally get
I
the
do
Rebels
think
flag-
our idea of him showing up in the Clone Wars reboot would be fantastic, especially because they could just now tie it back into the Thrawn trilogy that Zahn did. So
Yeah. I mean,
they established that Thrawn worked with Skywalker and Padme.
Yeah, he worked with both of them previously when the Galactic Republic was still around, so it's possible.
Right. All right, man. Well, let's bring it home. So we saved, well, maybe not the best for last, because remember, I still got to pay off all my T's. But we saved probably the biggest announcement of the week for last, and that is the fact that Cassian Andor himself, Mr. Rebel Spy, is getting his own live-action series on Disney's streaming platform, which was also officially given a name this week, Nick, in Disney+.
Yeah, man, this is huge news. Okay, so we knew that we were gonna get one live action show.
And the Clone Wars. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of the platform.
Yeah, in terms of the platform, we're getting one live action
Star
show.
Wars wise.
Clone Wars, and then there was a host of other Marvel properties coming too. I mean, you have a Loki live action with Tom
dude,
Hiddleston.
I mean, come on.
Like a lot of good stuff. And then it's also been confirmed that once Disney Plus launches, all of the Disney owned properties that are on Netflix are moving over to the streaming platform. So we knew we were getting that. One live action, reboot of Clone Wars, and then the migration of everything from Netflix. Now, Bob Iger, on an investor's call, broke the news that we will have a live-action Cassian Andor series on the streaming platform to begin production next year. I mean, this is huge. This is 2 live-action Star Wars series at a time, essentially. Like, you're going to have these 2 things that are running very close proximity to each other. I mean,
I think this is going to be. I mean, I think they're essentially setting up the Marvel Netflix formula where you kind of rotate seasons of these shows after each other. So, I think Mandalorian, I do believe they're trying to make that a launch title for Disney+. But I think once that season runs, I wouldn't be surprised within 4 months we get the first season of Cassian. And then within maybe 4 or 6 months we get season 2 of Mando, hopefully.
Yeah, man.
And they just do what they've been doing with Daredevil, Iron Fist, Defenders, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage type of shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a formula that's worked out for them. I mean, unfortunately, we've had the recent cancellation of Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
A lot of people are speculating this is all kind of a contractual fuck you to Netflix. Like, hey, we can get out of our deal if we just say we cancel the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible.
And we're actually just going to bring all these guys back for, what are they called? Heroes for hire or whatever.
Yeah. So the way that works, I mean, the only thing that's stuck on Netflix for Star Wars is the Clone Wars is one non-Disney owned property, so all of Clone Wars.
Didn't you say earlier though that all previously released Star Wars movies also will not be pulled, like Rogue One?
No, all pre-acquisition movies. So I mean,
okay, so Rogue One and TLJ will move off of Netflix.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
not that even the old ones are on there. So yeah, you're right. So it would just be the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So the only thing that's stuck on Netflix is the Clone Wars, because technically Disney does not own that property, and Netflix was a collaborative partner in creating the final season.
Do you think they'll have the original? Oh fuck! I hate to call them the original 6, but I guess you almost have to. Do you think they'll have George's 6 on Disney Plus, Or do you think they'll still make us fucking buy them if we want to stream them ever?
Jeez, that's a good question.
I think they're gonna stick to their guns, and you got to fork out the fucking hundy.
Yeah.
Or when it's on sale for $80.
Yeah, dude. I think that somewhere deep within that contract, George was probably like, "You guys can't fuck with this."
Yeah, you can't just give my movies away for free.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's my feeling, but I don't know. I mean, that's a big drop, though. I mean, if you want to go in with a bang, I mean, you already have Mando, you have new.
Oh, it'd be huge, but I just think from a business standpoint, that they would rather be like, "Nah, we're just gonna keep making these assholes pay us $80 or $100 if they want to stream this shit."
Yeah,
because they'll do it. I mean, it's especially now with my kid wanting to watch them all the time, and I've got them loaded up on Plex.
I don't know, dude. Do you think that they would rather a $100 buy-in or you paying $10 a month for the rest of your life?
Good point.
I mean, they make more money off of you on the streaming service for sure. So, I mean, but that's a bang, dude. They're like, hey, you get this Marvel content, you get the Star Wars content, and you get every Star Wars movie ever made up until the most recent one. That's the way to do it.
No, you're not right. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but
anyway, so about this
you're
Cassian,
also a lot smarter than a lot of these people, I bet.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, I'm not going to say that I should be running a studio or being, a main part of Star Wars development at Disney, but I just going to say it's probably not a bad idea.
He's also saying it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out you probably shouldn't release a Star Wars movie like 5 months after a Star Wars movie.
It's probably, I mean, anybody could have figured that out, but probably not a great idea.
Especially one that didn't even stop filming until about 5 months before it came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were doing reshoots for that movie in March, and that was 2 months out from release. Not great. So back on the Cassian series, this is the description of the series. Gives a little bit of insight into when it's going to take place. It says that this is going to take place during the formative years of the rebellion and prior to the events of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Obviously cannot take place after Rogue One because Cassian's dead. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie.
Always love that.
Yeah, Cassian is dead. But so this has to be pre Rogue One, which means early Rebellion days. And I'm thinking, I mean, how far do you think we're getting outside of Episode 3 at this point? Because that's what we really have to start to gauge with this show.
Yeah, I know. I kind of, when I punched this up, I kind of conjectured that it may take place around the Rebels timeline, maybe a bit before, but I don't think too much prior to the Rebels timeline, which I think was 3 or 4 BBY.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think here. So
right, I mean, you got to envision Cassian's still a little kid at the end of Revenge of the Sith, so
yeah, he's still a kid.
If even born, I mean, yeah, he's probably born by then.
Yeah, because I mean, you would figure in Rogue One, he's what, 30, roughly.
Yeah, you'd think he's in his mid-30s.
And we know that A New Hope and
New Hope and Rogue One take place in the same year.
Same year, but
basically same day almost.
A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith are 19 years apart. So if we say that Cassian's 30, then he's probably 11 years old at the end of Revenge. Like, he's probably 11 years old when Luke is born, or so. So if you pop it,
you're probably right.
Yeah. So if you pop it, say, like you said, probably 4 or 5 years out from Revenge, around that Rebels timeline, that would give a good amount of time to not only.
Yeah, I mean, do we even have a rebellion guy? Like, I think even the way they set up in Rebels, like, Leia's still a big face of the rebellion.
Yeah.
A young, I mean, a young Leia.
Yeah. I mean, she's essentially I don't want to say that she's the Hope, but, I mean, Senator Organa, the only thing that we have in any way that signifies the formation of the rebellion is in a deleted scene from episode 3.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, yeah, you're right. It could be. I mean, let's say, I'd say it has to be at least 8 to 10 years post Sith. But more than likely, I think it's going to be a year or two prior to Rebels.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're going to be...
Because he's gotta be old enough. Because here's the other drop. Diego Luna is going to be playing Cassian. So we can't...
He's a human. He ain't getting any younger.
Yeah, so we can't go to, like, 16-year-old Cassian. Like, they can make him look younger because they kind of gruffed him up a little bit.
You know what? Honestly, dude, this is going to be right during the Rebels time period.
Yeah. So it's
dead on. It makes perfect sense.
And
it has to.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be within that same sphere. I mean, so, and I mean, if we want to talk about speculations about, cartoon characters making that cross again, I mean, here's an opportunity.
Oh my God! I mean, come on. Fucking put a ponytail on Freddie Prinze Jr. and roll him out as Kanan for all I care.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible.
That's the guy that voices him. Why not? He'll just play him live action.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, these two timelines are going to be intersecting more than likely, and they're both.
I would love it. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think one thing that we can definitely speculate on that's probably a guarantee, we're going to see the meeting of him and K2.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I mean,
come on.
I've been working
that's
on...
That's a fucking layup.
Yeah, I've been working on some stuff, and that, this kind of announcement is a part of it, but I think that's 100% right. I think the meeting between him and K2 is going to happen, and it might be like a meeting while he's still a fucking Imperial droid at that time. I mean,
it has to be.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, he's probably trying to kill him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably trying to kill Cassian. They capture him, reprogram. There you go.
Yeah. So I'll say...
He becomes metal Chewbacca.
I mean, I think this is a fucking great move. And the reason that this is a great move is because Rogue One is a movie that people fucking loved, that Disney didn't... I don't want to say they didn't expect it, but that was the first risk, was Rogue One without any established characters in it. And it blew up. It made $1 billion, and people loved it.
Right. I mean, that seems to be the safe bet for Disney if they want to go out on a limb. Just like Mando, I mean... It seems these days, because of how toxic the fandoms become, it's almost safer for them to just go on completely Disney original stuff than try to even mention Lucas stuff.
Yeah, I mean, here's what we know fans want. They want OT, so Mando and this are both still within the sphere of that OT time period. Mando a little bit outside, because we know that you're working in like the 6-year area after Return of the Jedi.
No women.
no women, no minorities, no. I mean, I guarantee... Well, we already know... Well, it's speculated that Pedro Pascal's in that movie, so fuck all the people who think that minorities and women shouldn't be in Star Wars. You're idiots.
I was making a joke, by the way. I hope people pick that up.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But we know... So, like, both of these TV shows are within that OT period of time. It's not featuring any, like you said, Lucas-related characters. I mean, Cassian is completely Disney, and K2, again, is completely Disney. But... that's the safe bet, dude, is just to go off of what we know people like and just expand on it. And unfortunately for us, that means there's probably going to be not a ton of new trilogy material yet. So, they may wait until episode 9 wraps up and then kind of delve into it there. But it's unlikely that we're going to get some new trilogy-related material right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I like the direction Disney's headed with this Disney Plus stuff. I mean, it just, even outside the Star Wars shows they've already announced. I mean, the Marvel stuff they've announced sounds fantastic. So
yeah, And
I mean, they really are. I mean, they're pretty much locking and loading and saying, hey, Netflix, you haven't had legit competition until the end of 2019.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
we're coming for you.
I mean,
we're probably still not going to be able to knock you off the number one spot for VOD, but we're definitely going to eat into the market.
I mean, look at some of Marvel's most popular stuff. I mean, it's all Disney related. I mean, it's all Disney, Marvel. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, Moana, all of the Disney stuff right now, all of the Disney animated stuff right now is on Netflix. I mean,
Right.
Netflix is losing that, and they're losing what people go to Netflix for, which is the fucking Marvel shit. Like, people go to Netflix for the original Marvel content. The Punisher.
Well, I mean, dude, they go to Netflix for a lot of stuff.
I mean, for a lot of stuff, but like that,
yeah,
that was their biggest
the
win.
Marvel shows were a selling point for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of their
But I mean,
biggest
Netflix, trust me, they're well positioned to survive Disney Plus. But it is going to be, they'll definitely. I don't think they're going to lose a lot of subscribers, but their bandwidth may free up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going to be, unsubscribing from Netflix when Disney Plus comes out.
You can't. I mean, they put out too much of their own good original content.
Yeah, I mean, now you have stuff
the
like
fucking Black Mirrors. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good shit made by Netflix. But I mean, as a Star Wars Marvel fan, like,
oh yeah, come on.
I mean, this
Disney
is
Plus, sign me up. I mean,
yeah, day one, get me on the ground.
I'll
floor.
be a day one subscriber. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, so
I mean, you had me at the Mando.
Yeah, and now you throw in a Cassian TV series. Doesn't have an official name yet, and the only thing that we know about it is like I said, pre-Rogue One, early formation of the Rebellion time period, and it hasn't started filming yet. It's going to start production next year, 2019. And man, I'm just so psyched for this dude, because the character of Cassian was so interesting. To the way that he was introduced to the fan base in the beginning of Rogue One as this.
It was shocking, I'll be honest with you, because I just revisited it in my head when I was reading this story. I mean, you got to think about it. The way the Rebellion's portrayed in the original trilogy, I mean, they're pretty much the pure good guys. But right in Rogue One, right at the beginning, when you meet this dude, I mean, he murders someone in the name of the Rebellion. Like, straight murder, not just murdering a fucking stormtrooper. He literally blows away an innocent person just because he can't let the Empire know that he was there.
Yeah, he can't take the risk. Like, he
rushes his ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, shoots him fucking right. I mean, yeah. So
he blasts him. I mean, he fucking blasts him like a cold-blooded murderer.
Yeah. And I mean,
Cassian is not your fucking happy-go-lucky rebel soldier.
Yeah. Rogue One is the first movie to introduce the Rebellion to us as not clean.
As doing whatever it takes.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you're fighting a juggernaut and a tyrannical force as big as the Empire. You can't be, white glove, clean nose the whole time. Like, you have to do stuff like that. And then even bringing in Saw as this splintered off force for still fighting against the Empire, but even too extreme for the Rebellion. Like, it goes to show you that these type of characters existed within a rebellion, and it wasn't just the Bigs and the Wedges and the Luke Skywalkers. Like, it wasn't these buttoned up kids that are fighting against the Force. It was spies, and it was people who had to risk their lives and kill in order to get the information that was necessary to ensure that the rebellion could succeed. And I think that's what's going to make this show super interesting, is that you're not going to see something like Kaz, where he's like an innocent, naive.
I think we're going to see the dark side of the Rebellion in this show.
Yeah, and that's what's going to make it super interesting, because we've never seen that outside of the little bit that we saw in Rogue One.
Yeah, this shit's going to get shady.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking serious content here. I mean, this is going to be another show that is more mature. Like, this is probably like Mando and this Cassian show. is gonna border on that like TVM rating. If I had to take a guess, like it's not.
You would hope so.
Yeah, it's. This,
I mean, honestly, this is a topic that I think we need to do one of our fanboy moments for. I mean, clearly not in this episode, but down the road. I mean, it's definitely there's. I'm already having a bunch of ideas pop up in my head for this series. So, it was a great announcement to get yesterday. Or again, you guys are listening late, so whatever. It's been out there for probably a week now, but it's just good. It's good to know that Disney, even though they're canceling movies, they're at least trying new things to keep, the license going. And I still say to a lot of you people that are all pissy about whatever Disney's been doing, fuck you.
Yeah. I mean, this is a fantastic
Give me more. I
announcement.
mean, give me Star Wars, right?
And it goes to show that Disney is locking down these people who are in movies. Tom Hiddleston is coming back for a fucking TV series on a streaming service.
That's pretty impressive.
Diego
I don't
Luna.
think people understand.
Yeah,
I mean, the landscape has changed, but when I was a little kid, TV was like for second-rate actors.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's.
But these days, people almost prefer to be working in long-form TV because it is long-form TV, and because of the Netflixes and the Hulus and now the Disney Pluses.
Yeah. So, the fact that they were able to get Diego Luna to reprise this role,
it's
massive.
Great. Just keeps continuity. I mean, it's fantastic, people. I mean, don't be angry. I mean, I even saw some people on Instagram like angry at this. It's like, Jesus Christ.
What do you want?
What the fuck has this fan base come to?
Like what?
I mean,
more?
do we just want nothing? Do we want to go back to post Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah,
You get a cartoon series maybe going. That's it. I mean, what the fuck?
I don't understand. I don't get it.
I mean, what the fuck? There's a lot worse things out there than new Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, man. So at the beginning of the cast, kind of tease something as we're rounding this one out. I'm not going to take much more of your time, people. Don't worry. But Nick and I have an announcement to make. It's a big one, and it's going to affect this podcast in particular. And that's the fact that we have decided to completely separate the Star Wars Time podcast show from the Entertainment Buddhacast Network. So what that means is we will be essentially rebooting Star Wars Time on its own website, on its own iTunes podcast feed, Stitcher, basically we're starting over with Star Wars Time. We are making its own presence. It's its own thing. We're going to have our own logo, like I said, our own website, our own YouTube, our own social networks. So if you are someone that, and again, we appreciate you to hell and back. Trust me, I know there has to be a few of you out there that are regular listeners because we do get a couple hundred downloads a month. So that's why we're going to start putting these messages out as we do our last few episodes of Star Wars Time on the Entertainment Buddhacast Podcast Network. All right, so we will be moving this show to the official Star Wars Time Podcast Network. It hasn't taken place yet. It's coming up in the next few weeks. We'll keep reminding you at the end of these shows as we air out the remaining few on EB. So just, keep a note, remind yourself, get ready, because we are launching Star Wars Time as if we are giving birth to it for the first time.
And along with this, not only you're going to get the podcast, we have a fully functional website that's going to have editorial content, news content. We're going to revive Less Than 12 Parsecs if there were, people who are listening to this podcast that watched that YouTube series that we put out, just bite-sized Star Wars content. We're going to bring that back. There's a lot of things that Matt and I want to do with Star Wars Time as its own.
It's gonna be a full-on Star Wars fanboy site. I mean, we're gonna have you covered with the podcast, hopefully weekly, if not more frequently. We'll be doing reviews of the movies. I'll be porting over all my Star Wars Resistance reviews and Easter egg recap videos. Basically anything I was doing Star Wars related on youtube.com/entertainmentbuddha or the Entertainment Buddhacast version of Star Wars Time, or even on entertainmentbuddha.com itself, that will all be moving to starwarstime.net. The site has been secured. It's not even remotely up and running yet. I mean, it does function if you go to the URL, but there's nothing on there. There's not even a Star Wars picture, so boo his yuck. But we just wanted to start letting you guys know, at least those of you that we think are listening, that we will be making this switch, and it's going to happen across the board. I mean, website-wise, there's going to be a brand new iTunes presence, a brand new Stitcher presence, Google Play, Android, everything. Star Wars Time is officially leaving the womb. Entertainment Buddha is letting it fly, and it's going to be its own thing, and Nick and I are pretty pumped about it. It's going to give us a place to just go full on with our Star Wars fandom. Like you said, we're going to have a website to back up the podcast, and we're going to do our best to put out engaging content that hopefully you guys like. So keep in the back of your head, starwarstime.net, the Star Wars Time podcast. You're going to have to get resynced in. You're going to have to resync all your feeds, and we apologize for that, but we do believe deep down that this is the right decision for the future of Star Wars Time. All right, my friends. As always, may the Force be with you. Until next time.